Now, education definitely plays a role into all of this art and newspapers and literature. Books and newspapers are only doing so well because everyone, for the most part, can read now. Literacy rates are way up, which is excellent. So in 1870, our country only had a few hundred high schools. So most students, overwhelmingly most students, would end their education when they finished the 8th grade. That was pretty typical. But by 1900, we have over 6,000 high schools across the country. So more of an opportunity for people to continue their education, leading more people into college. Literacy is going to rise 90% during the Gilded Age, which is awesome. So school curriculums are going to really grow on top of the things that they've been covering in the past, like philosophy and literature and math, religions, things like that. They're also going to cover civics, so like government. They're going to cover drafting, science, woodworking, things that will translate into actual careers for students. Schools for teaching developed more complex ideas about teaching and learning. So there's a lot more talk about how a student learns and what the best method for education is, and the different types of learning and things like that. So we're going to sort of broaden our view of education. There are going to be more schools for women and more schools for African Americans. So all around, education is going to get a big bump during this time. Entertainment obviously plays a major role in pop culture. Most people, when you hear pop culture, that's what you think of. You think of people in the entertainment industry. You think of music, film, books, all that is entertainment. So cities are going to offer more than just jobs. They offer a good time. And that's all thanks to electricity now that we can have lights at night. So we're going to have lots of people getting involved in the entertainment industry more than just as in shows, more than just actors and things like that. There are going to be amusement parks, more shows, different things. So we'll talk about amusement parks first. In 1884, LaMarcus Thompson opens the first roller coaster ever. It was 10 cents a ride. And once they see how popular this roller coaster is. To be fair, this roller coaster was absolute crap compared to the roller coasters that me and you have been on in our lifetime. But, I mean, obviously it was wooden, so, that's just already not as good. But for them, I mean, to have never been on a roller coaster or seen anything like it, to go on this thing, it's just amazing. So that opens up the idea of an amusement park. So they're going to open Coney Island, which is really one of the first, if not the first, amusement parks on the beach of New York on Coney Island. Their first ride there was a roller coaster. Shortly after they opened the roller coaster, they opened up a horse track and a hotel and just made it sort of a vacation spot. And it was very good for the lower class because they can't afford to take real vacations. If you are busting your butt to work, 60-hour weeks, 6 days a week, you cannot afford the time off, and you can't afford to lose the money or spend the money on taking your entire family to the beach for a week or out of the country or anything like that. Coney Island offers sort of like a break from reality, a sort of a mini vacation for people who can't afford a big one, which is a incredible thing. We've also got entertainment in the outdoors, some traveling shows. In 1883, we get our first Wild West show, Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. They offered like prizes and stuff for shooting and roping competitions. It was a traveling show, so they stayed close to railroad stops. This is where the character Annie Oakley comes from. Annie Oakley was part of Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. She had like a gun show, a shooting thing that she would do. But there were a bunch of different ones. As you see off here to the left, this word. You see this word, this C word here? I don't know how to say that. You can try if you want to, but this is a Methodist summer camp. It was a circuit, so it would travel, and they start this in 1874, and they market it as really being open to the whole family, not just kids. So it's like a summer camp for everyone. And this is Teddy Roosevelt actually commented on this thing, and he says that it's the most American thing in America. So we've got lots of things on the market like this. Shows, obviously very popular. Vaudeville shows. Vaudeville is not just, it's not like a play or just a musical. There's music, drama, comedy. It's like a sketch type deal. In 1881, a guy named Tony Pastor opened a theater in New York that targeted oh, that targeted families with wholesome entertainment, and he was showing vaudeville shows, and that's really where it became so popular. Films are going to start to become popular. We're going to have our first movies during the Gilded Age. You can even see some of those very, very early movies on Netflix. They've actually uploaded a couple recently. And the theaters that showed these movies, they would charge a nickel. Movies like The Great Trains Robbery and things like that. And they charged a nickel, so they were called Nickelodeon. So that's where the name Nickelodeon, like the TV channel, comes from. There would be, music halls like Carnegie Hall playing ragtime, jazz music. Big cities had major exhibitions of technology and entertainment, like fairs where you could go and see all of the new fancy technology that they were coming out with this year, like the World's Fair, which we'll talk about later down the line. We don't really do a World's Fair anymore. We sort of have a World's Fair. It's just not called that. But it doesn't happen in the United States anymore. It happens all over the place. Like I think the last one was like in Dubai or something more exotic than New York. Sports are obviously a major part of pop culture. Baseball is really the heart and soul of all of this. We call baseball America's pastime. In 1876, they formed the National League, and it was organized into a real business, not just like intramurals, a bunch of guys hanging out playing baseball. They started to build some major stadiums like Fenway, which is in Boston. In 1908, that's when the song Take Me Out to the Ball Game comes out. In the 1900s, they even formed colored baseball leagues, quote unquote. So baseball leagues that were for African Americans. Obviously, we won't have an African American in baseball until Jackie Robinson. But there's a lot of other sports too. Horse racing is going to be very popular. Boxing is very popular, especially for immigrants. Boxing allowed immigrants to really get into that sport. There were heroes for all of these different ethnic and immigrant groups because people all over the world boxed. Football is finally going to come onto the scene. At first, people really hated football because there were a lot less rules. There weren't very many rules to football in the beginning, and it was very violent. The padding situation was not really there. It was just like absolute hot mess when football first came onto the scene, and people were like, that's too much, I'm not into that. But eventually they put more rules and regulations, and they made it more like football that we know today, and that's when people started to actually get into it. And then basketball, obviously. In 1891, James Naismith invents basketball at the YMCA, and that's going to catch on as well. So we've got all these different types of things for people to do, to get involved in. You can go to a show, you can go to a ball game, you can, go out. You've got advertisements enticing you to come to these things and spend your money. So all of that is fueling this new economy, and all of this is based in big cities.